What if there was a free content tool that could 10x your output when working with video editors and designers, just like the one I use to easily publish hundreds of videos a month across social media? This video, I'm going to show you how to install this tool and use it for free, no strings attached. You'll be able to build your own content system or even build your own video feedback SaaS platform and charge money for it. First, I'll show you a quick demo of what it can do. Then I'll show you how to install it. Then some additional background that will help you maximize the tool for your own use. And make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I show you some additional killer features that you can use with the tool that we're going to install that's going to blow your mind. If you're tired of going back and forth over email with your creative team or want to eliminate the cost of expensive software subscriptions, this video is for you. All right, first, let me show you the video feedback tool that I'm calling Feedback Magic, and this is version 1.0. Imagine that you recorded a video with your video editor and you sent it over, they did the edits, and then they sent it back. And now you want to go through from the beginning, you want to play that video. And then at any given point, you see something that you want them to make a correction on. So you can come down here to the tool. You can turn on the drawing tool, and then you can point something out. You could point this out, whatever that might be, with the drawing tool. And then you can leave a comment. Please take this out. You can add that comment. You can see that it's adding the comment over on the right side. You can also see that it's leaving these little dots here on the timeline so that the video editor has a visual indication as to where your feedback is on the timeline. You can continue to watch the entire video. You can leave additional comments, zoom in here. For whatever reason that you want to zoom right there. You don't have to necessarily leave a comment. And then once you have all of your different comments, it's very easy to switch between them and go back and forth and view those comments. And then of course, once you've watched the entire video, you can send this feedback to your video editor. They can go through each of the different comments. They can see the visual indications that you put. They can actually read the comment. They can fix those issues. They can actually check them off here. And then of course, you can also adjust the status of the video, whether it's in progress, or whether it needs review, or whether it's approved for the final export. So it's a pretty simple tool. Watch the video, provide feedback to your editor, leave comments, send it to your editor, have them go through it, mark them off, and then use the status to keep everybody on the same page. And beyond video feedback, you can also use it for images as well. Here we have a thumbnail that we're going to use on an upcoming video. So if you're working with your thumbnail designer, you can come in with the drawing tool. In this case, there's no timeline, but you could leave a comment. Then you could point to some sort of spelling mistake. You get the idea. We're going to have those comments on the side. We can view those and load those up. And just like a video, we can control the status. The only real difference is we don't have a timeline because it's not a video. All right, so now that we demoed the system both with videos and images, I wanted to show you the backend database that is storing all of the information that we enter here, the comments and the drawings. Right now, I'm using a Airtable database, and you can use any database that you want. But I use Airtable a lot for building out content systems. I actually have a new content system that I'm going to be releasing with this new tool. Airtable is great for storing your content and keeping links to everything and storing thumbnails. So I'm using Airtable here for this particular demo. And what you can see here is just that every single video or image has a unique ID, and it has a link to the video that we are editing, or potentially a image or thumbnail that we're editing. And then you can see it's keeping track of some metadata like the status and then also the comments. Now, in my case, you can't actually read the comments because they've been encoded into the database, but you don't need to worry about that for now. I'm going to show you that in a bit. But the main thing I want to point out here is that you can use any database that you want. I'm just using Airtable because I like Airtable as a system to store data. I've built out a lot of content systems using Airtable, but you could use Supabase or you could use any other database to store this data. And when I go through the installation process for setting this up, you'll understand how this works and you'll be able to replicate it in any database that you want. All right, so now let's go ahead and install the toolkit that has this video feedback tool built in so that then we can connect it to a backend database here in Airtable. So the toolkit that I'm talking about is called the no-code-architects-toolkit. This is a completely free tool. Now this toolkit will do a lot more than help you with video feedback. It's a full free API that will allow you to transcribe video. You can do advanced video manipulation like concatenating videos together, pulling out clips, cropping videos, making images from videos. You can add fancy captions to videos. I'll cover all those extra features at the end, so make sure to stick stick around. But first, let's go ahead and install this toolkit. I'm going to use a platform called DigitalOcean. You'll want to create your own account. Once you'll log in, you'll see a screen like this. If you don't have any existing projects, then you'll need to create a project. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create a new app in the app platform. Now, there are other ways of installing this. I'm just going to show you the most straightforward and easy way to get started. Once you go to create your app, you're going to come down here and select container image, and we're going to use the Docker Hub platform. In the description below, you can cut and paste what I'm putting right here into this repository input box here. And then for the image tag, you're going to want to type latest. You can leave the credentials blank. Then you'll move on to next. Then we need to configure the app. Based off of the name of my repository, it came up with a name, but it's actually got an error right out of the gate. So we need to fix that. It looks like it's just that additional dash at the end. So I'm going to edit this, take out that dash, and that error went away. I'll go ahead and close that. Now for the size here, I'm going to go ahead and adjust this, and I'm going to move the containers down to 1. And for the instance size, I'm going to go ahead and create a larger server here. Now you can definitely use a smaller server here, but for the demo, I don't remember exactly what the smallest size is. There is a size where this won't work. But again, beyond this video feedback tool, there's all these other features inside of the toolkit that sometimes need a bit more resources. So you'll need to experiment with this a bit to see what the smallest size is. But for now, I'm just going to go with the $50 a month. And then you can experiment with smaller versions to reduce the amount that you spend to host the toolkit. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. We'll use this size. For deployment settings, we can leave this alone. For network settings, we can leave that alone as well. Now we do need to set a few environment variables, but before we can actually set these, I need to come over here to the Spaces Object Storage. I'm going to do a right click so that I don't leave this screen because I've already been setting it up. If you leave the screen, you'll have to come back and reconfigure everything. So I'm just going to open this up in a new tab, and then I'm going to go to the new tab. Now technically, you don't need to have this to launch the toolkit, but it's going to make the demo a lot easier, and you're going to want to use a lot of the other features inside the toolkit, and those will require this. Basically, we're creating a place to store files that are created from the toolkit. And then for this demo, we'll also use this storage to host the videos and the images that we're using in our Airtable database that we then use in the video feedback tool. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to create a new bucket. I'll go ahead and leave it in New York. I'm going to leave that off. We're going to give this a name, YouTube video demo. We're going to go ahead and leave it in the APIs project, and we'll go ahead and create a spaces bucket. Now for the demo, we're going to need to add a couple of files here, but first I'm going to come here to the settings, and here we're going to create some access keys. I'm going to come back here and we're going to set that up in just a second. First, I'm going to go ahead here and edit the environment variables. We're going to add an environment variable. The first one I'm going to add is API_key. Now make sure you spell things just as I do with an underscore and not a dash, and don't put spaces before or after here or over here. It will definitely cause a problem. Pay close attention to what I do here to avoid issues in the future. For the API key, I'm going to go ahead and just type test123. Then I'm going to go ahead and add an additional variable. And by the way, you can leave this as run and build time. And then here in this key, I'm going to put S3 endpoint URL. So now I'm going to come back to our bucket and I'm going to grab this URL here. I'm going to copy it and add it right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add an environment variable. For this one, we need to add the S3 access key. Again, remember, no spaces before or after. You're going to have issues. And now for the value, I'm going to jump back here. I'm going to go ahead and create access keys. In this case, I'm going to give it full access. For the key name, I'll go ahead and type YouTube feedback demo. I'm going to create the access keys. They're going to create right here. So first, I'm going to grab the access key. I'm going to come back here. We're going to add that right here. Then I'm going to add an additional variable. In this case, we're going to add S3 secret key. Notice that there was a space there. Oh, there wasn't. Notice that I'm looking for that. So make sure there's no spaces before or after. Now we're going to come back to our bucket. We're going to copy the secret key here. You will only be able to see this one time. So we'll drop that value right here. Again, I might just double check that there's no spaces before or after any of these values. Then we're going to add another variable. This is going to ask for the S3 bucket name. In this case, it is YouTube demo, YouTube video demo. We'll drop that in right here. Again, no spaces before or after. We'll go ahead and add one more variable. This time we're going to add S3 region. And for this, it should be NYC3, and you can verify that right here from the URL. And I should be able to scroll down, and that should be everything that we need for this first install. I'll close that. We don't need to do any app level environment variables. This should be fine. For the region, you can go ahead and use San Francisco. For our app name, I'm going to go ahead and type YouTube demo, and you can select the project that you had created earlier. And from here, we should be able to deploy the app. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and say create app. So what that's going to do is it's going to go to Docker Hub, which is this platform over here, which is where we compile all of this code into an image that we can download into our DigitalOcean server. So Docker Hub is taking all of this and building an image every time we update it so that we can then use that and deploy into DigitalOcean. So this takes just a few minutes the first time. Go ahead and be patient while that builds out. And while I am sensitive to cost, one of the other reasons why I use bigger servers is because they tend to be a bit faster too. And I use this tool for all sorts of things. This $50 eliminates hundreds of other dollars of other API services. And again, I'll cover all of that a little bit later in the video as an added bonus. While that deploys, if you need help on any of this, jump into the No-Code Architects community. It's full of members doing the same thing that we're doing today. You get access to tech support. We solve 100% of every tech issue from our members. There's a full classroom with courses and automation templates and a course on how to build out AI products. And there's calls with me almost every single day. All right, so it looks like it's ready. I did end up refreshing the screen because it seemed like the progress bar here was stuck. So it seems like it's installed. If I come here to the runtime logs, you should see something that looks just like this. There is an official way to test this. I'm here in Postman, and I'll provide a link to copy this entire set of test endpoints here in the description below. You'll have to create your own account in Postman. If you go to postman.com, you'll be able to create your own account and you'll want to sign in. From there, if you use the description below, you'll be able to come to these three dots and create a fork. You'll want to come down to the toolkit and then you'll go to authenticate. I'm personally going to duplicate this because the one I have is already being used. So here I have a copy. Here's the base URL. I'm going to come back to DigitalOcean and I'm going to copy this URL. I'm using the desktop version of Postman, not the web version. I recommend downloading the desktop application. It's a lot better. Then I'm going to simply remove this placeholder here. And I'm going to drop in that URL from DigitalOcean. I'm going to remove the double slashes here. And then I need to go to headers here. And for X API key, I'm going to go ahead and erase what we have here. And I'm going to type test 1, 2, 3. And if you remember back when we were setting up our toolkit in the environment variables, for the API key, we typed test 1, 2, 3. And so that's what I'm going to use here. I'm going to go ahead and send that and we should see a success. That's great. And now the next thing we need to do is just test it here. So I'm going to duplicate this one as well. You won't need to do that. You can do that directly to your authenticate and your test. I'm just already using these for a different server. So again, I'm going to come here to the base URL, going to remove that, add it in, and then jump over to the headers, remove this value here. Going to go ahead and type test 1, 2, 3. And I will send that. And as long as we get a success here, we can see we have this file that it returned to us. If I click on that, it's going to download a file that if we open, it says you have successfully installed the NCA Toolkit. Great job. So as long as you have that up and running, you're good to go and we can continue on. All right, so believe it or not, we're actually very close to having this complete. The next thing we need to do is we need to replicate an Airtable database like this. We don't actually have to have all of these different columns and we don't have to set it up just like this. I'm going to make a bit more simple of a solution to get up and running. And then down the line, I'll create other videos that will help expand how all of this works. So I'm in Airtable. I created a new base. This is a brand new base. This is a default base that you will see. I'm going to edit this field. I'm going to call it the record ID. I'm going to come down and change this to a formula field, call it record. You start typing record, this will pop up here. All you got to do is add the final parenthesis, the closed parenthesis there, and then you save it. And then for these 3 rows, you'll now see a record ID here. And then next up, I'm going to change this column here. We're going to edit it. We'll put URL, and then we'll select URL column type, save. We can expand this. Then here we already have status, so I'll just move this here. I'm going to edit it and just turn it into a single line text, save. There we go. And then I'm also going to change this field here to comments, which is going to store all the comments on the right side. And then I'm going to change the column type to long text, save. Now in this video, I'm not going to use any compression and encodings like I did in this video here, just to keep things simple. The only disadvantage of that is that Airtable long text fields can only accept so much data. So on any given video, if you had just a ton of comments with complex drawings, you would actually run into an error when you try to save that data here. That's why I actually did this the way I did. But for testing, this is totally acceptable, and you might not even run into that error. And if you do, feel free to jump into the No-Code Architects community for help, or look out for another video in the future where I show you how to set up this with compression. So now what we need to do is we need to add some sample URLs here for content to load. But I do want to provide a little bit of context here. Remember, the way you would actually use this tool is by building out some sort of content system like I've done with the Content Engine database. And this is where we keep track of all of our content ideas, what's being recorded, what's being edited. So you can imagine this database is going to end up being where you actually run your content workflow from, and you'll be able to link from here, and I'll show you how to build a link directly to the feedback tool. But this Airtable database or your application would be how you would actually access the video feedback tool. So I'm going to jump back to DigitalOcean real quick here. And again, remember I mentioned that we built out this storage space. So I'm going to jump into the bucket that we created, and I'm going to upload 2 files, a video thumbnail and a video, and keep them small just to start, just to make it easy. And when you upload them, make sure you make them public, otherwise the system won't work. I'm going to go ahead and upload those. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come to the video. I'm going to grab the URL to the video, come to our Airtable database. I'll put the video here, and then I'm going to grab the URL for the thumbnail and put that here. I'll go ahead and leave the status and the comments blank. All right, so now that we have the URLs here in the database, now what we need to do is we need to make a very simple backend that is able to read from the Airtable database and also write back to it when we have comments. So when we load this page, we need to be able to load up the information from Airtable and pull it into our video feedback tool. And when we make comments, we need to be able to save it back to Airtable. So I'm going to jump back over to Make, and I'm just going to use Make for this example, and I'm going to add a new webhook, and we're going to add a custom webhook. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the load feature. So when the video feedback tool loads, it's going to send a message back to this webhook with a load feature, and then we'll be able to load that from the database and send it back to the video feedback tool. So I'm going to go ahead and add a webhook here. Go ahead and save. In a minute, we'll come back and grab this URL, but I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the video feedback tool, and I'm going to reconstruct this URL with our new DigitalOcean server. So first, I'll open up a new tab, and just hang with me for a second, and this will make a lot of sense. So I'm going to come up to DigitalOcean. I'm going to go back to the server that we created, which is the YouTube demo. I'm going to grab this URL here, copy. Then I'm going to go to the empty tab. I'm just going to drop that right here. I'm not going to hit enter yet. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to Airtable. I'm going to grab this ID right here, and I'll put this format in the description below. I'm going to put a question mark, and then I'm going to put ID equals. I'm going to paste the ID of the record from Airtable. And then I'm going to put an ampersand, and I'm going to type webhook URL equals, and then I'm going to jump over to Make. I'm going to grab this URL here. I'm going to add it right here. But I need to go back into this section right here. I need to type v1/media/feedback. And that should be good. So before I hit enter here, I'm going to jump over to Make. I'm going to run this automation, and then I'm going to hit enter. Now this isn't going to work because we haven't built out the backend, but it should send a message here to our webhook. Looks like it didn't, likely because I didn't spell something correctly. I misspelled webhook, so I'm going to go ahead and correct that. Hit it again, and now we can see we hit our webhook, and now we can see we have a load action, and it's also sending the ID of the Airtable record. So now what we can do is we can start to build this out, and I need to have a router here. We're going to use this, and now we're going to go ahead and build the load portion of our backend. So we're building a backend to support our video feedback tool. And to get started, let's go ahead and build the load. So I'm going to build a filter here that's going to filter on the action is equal to load, save. And now all we need to do is load up that Airtable record. So I'm going to go into Airtable, get record. I'll pick my connection. I never gave my base a name, so it's going to be hard to find. YouTube feedback demo. And if you want access to these Make and Airtable templates, jump into the no-code architects community, and I'll have those available. Now we need to change the base. Might need to refresh. YouTube feedback demo for the table. We'll use table 1. For the record ID, now we're going to pass in this record ID here. Click Save. Now all we need to do is respond to the webhook back into our front-end tool here. So I'll go ahead and add that webhook response. You can go ahead and leave the status as 200. And now for the body, I'm going to paste this in. You'll want to pause the video and check out what I've written out here and copy it exactly as I have. I'm going to delete these placeholders that were already there and really pay attention to the detail here, the brackets, the quotes, everything, the colons, the commas, the lack of quotes. On comments, I'm not actually going to have any quotes around the comments. So here I'm putting in the video URL and I will put URL here. And then for the status, I'm going to drop in the status. And so that's all we need. So now let's go ahead and save this. I'm going to save the make automation. I'm going to run it once. And now when we refresh, okay, it didn't work. Let's see what happened. Came in and grabbed the data. I'm just going to make sure that this video is publicly accessible. I'm going to open an incognito mode that it's not authenticated. Just double check it. So it is publicly available, so that's not the issue. It could be the comments here is not complete, so it's broken. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put a bracket here and here, and also here and here. And it could also be the status, so it could be that as well. Let's just go ahead and run it again, and we'll refresh the tool. All right, so there it worked. So it was just the comments. So essentially what we needed to have here was an empty JSON array so that when we responded in the webhook, it was actually able to complete that. It was probably breaking the ImageMagick system. So now we're able to load, which is great. Now let's work on the save. All right, so now to hook up the save, now we need to work on this lower path here. So I'm going to go ahead and run once, and then I'm going to come back to the Feedback Magic tool, and I'm going to go ahead and add a drawing and a comment. And now we will see in make.com that we now have a new payload coming in. So we have the action save this time and the comments. So now we can build out this path. Here in the filter, I'm going to add the action, and then we'll type save. And then what we need to do is we need to actually transform the incoming comments into a JSON. So I'm going to add a JSON. And so I'm going to type JSON, and then we'll use transform to JSON, and I will pass in the comments that are coming in from the webhook request or the webhook payload. And then from here, I'm just going to add an Airtable module, update record, pick the base, a table. And so now for the record ID, I will pass in the record ID here. I'm not going to update the URL. We don't need to do that. It's already in the database. We're only updating the status and the comments. I'm noticing here we don't have the status because we need to send a different request to send the status. So for now, I'm going to leave that blank. But for the comments, I'm going to go ahead and drop in this JSON string. We'll go ahead and click save. Save. I'm going to go ahead and run once. Come back to the Feedback Magic tool, and let's add another comment. Add. Now we were able to transform the comments into a JSON, then we were able to save that into Airtable. So if I jump back to Airtable, we're now seeing the comments saved into the database. And now, if I were to turn this on, we could refresh this, no issue. If I back out, we can actually watch these run. So I'll refresh, loads the data. This is adding new comments here. We can see those coming down this path. I'm going to go in here and just run once and change the status, needs review, so that I can update this Airtable here, because now we're going to have that status here. Drop that in there, save, and now I'll back out just so we can see everything. Now we should have full functionality approved. If I refresh, it saves that. If I close out a comment or two, we can see on the back end it's saving everything. If I refresh it, let's move it to back to in progress. If I refresh it, we are good to go. So now we have that system fully set up, so you can start to think about how you might build out your own content system. Oh, and one other thing I did want to show you as well is if you were building out your own content system like the content engine in Airtable and you wanted to create a link from one of your content rows, then all you would need to do is create a button here. And this is going to open up a URL. So then what I would do is I would jump over to the feedback and I would just grab this here, and I would jump back to Airtable and I would drop that into here. And then I would simply need to add some quotes around the link up into where the record ID is. And I would put the end quote there right after the equals. And then I would put an ampersand. And then instead of having this record ID here, I would erase that and type record. And then I could use this variable here and then close the parenthesis. And then after the close parenthesis, I would add another ampersand and a quote. And don't get confused with the ampersand we just added in the one that was already in the URL. And then I would just add a close quote at the end here. And if I were to expand this out so you could see it a little bit better, it's basically just creating that link with a dynamic record ID in there. And then if we create that field, now we have a button. Actually, I like to color it a bit better. And if I were to click it, it would take me directly to our feedback tool. In the No-Code Architects community, in just a few weeks, I'm actually going to be releasing a community version of my content engine database system that is going to incorporate this system. So if you want to join a cool community and get access to a free system, make sure to check that out. So now we've got the system set up, and I want to cover some of the other cool features of the toolkit. Since you've already set up the toolkit and there's all these other features beyond just the video feedback tool, I want to go over that. But first, I wanted to quickly cover why I created this video feedback tool, because there actually is something on the market called frame.io, which is a very similar tool that I used as the inspiration, where you can load up your videos and leave comments. And you can access those comments on the side. But the main reason why I built my own tool is because frame.io just released a version 4.0. And what I don't understand is they did not release an API for their new version. Now, if you don't upgrade from version 3, then you can still access their old API. However, if you sign up for a new account, they force you into version 4, and they will not allow you to downgrade into version 3. So if you use their new version, you just can't access an API. You'll find that it's very easy to use up all of the storage that they give you. And this tool is quite expensive once you have multiple users and you start to have lots of video inside of your system. So when I ran up against this roadblock, I was like, hey, this tool really isn't that hard to develop. So I'll just develop my own free version and integrate it back into my own backend database and just avoid the situation altogether. So using this tool, we save a ton of money. We have access to an API. We can build anything we want. We can use this front end. Like I showed you with any database, you can build this into any SaaS tool that you want to build and sell yourself. You could build your own frame.io system just like this and sell it. Or like I'm doing, just build out your own content system that has this cool video feedback tool that will help you collaborate with your creative team. And so real quick, back here in Postman, I did want to quickly go over some of the other endpoints here besides the video feedback tool that you can get free access to when you install the No-Code Architects Toolkit to DigitalOcean. And remember, you can get access to all these test endpoints using the link in the description below to the Postman template. And inside each of these different sections here, it's broken down by different actions on different media types. So here we have different actions that you can run on video. So here we have a caption tool. Here we can pass in a video to the toolkit. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Just for now, we don't need it. And if I were to execute this, it's going to automatically add captions to the video with all of these different settings and colors and fonts. So I'll just go ahead and click send. It's going to process and then return back the results. So here we have a success. So I can go ahead and click on this link here and open up the video. So here we can see we have a video of me on the school games that is now captioned using the fancy captions and this highlight. We can also create thumbnails from our videos. So I can pass in a video and get a thumbnail. When you're building out your own content system, it's great for adding thumbnails in like that for your videos. We can concatenate two videos together. So in this API call, I can pass in two videos and it's going to respond with both of those videos attached together. So if we have one video here and another video, it's going to return a longer video with both of those attached together. We can actually cut videos apart. We can overlay one video on another. We also have an endpoint here called FFmpeg. And this is a more flexible tool that allows you to use the FFmpeg tool, which is an open source tool that usually runs on your computer, but we built it into the API. You'll need to check it out. It's worth researching. It's a very powerful video and audio tool. And with this endpoint, it allows you to basically build out any particular API call that you want. Here we have a bunch of samples like cropping videos, adding logos to your videos, creating a tweet pic. I'll click into this one where we send it two different pictures. and it will respond back with something like this, where you have one picture here, and then you have your tweet on top. Here's a sample here of creating those reaction videos. I'll go ahead and click send. So here we're taking a video and a reaction to produce one of the reaction videos that you see online. So here we got the response. I'll show you what this looks like. So here you have one of those videos where you've got somebody watching another video and then responding to it. Here we can mix audio and video. Using this one, we can draw text onto an image or a video. In this example here, I'm actually creating the certificates that are inside of my No-Code Architects community. When you complete a course, we can open this up and we can take a template image like this and we can embed some text on top of it. Then we have more endpoints inside of the media. We can transcribe video. So here I can just pass in a video and transcribe it, or get an SRT file. Here you can see the SRT file, and then here is the transcript. We can actually convert video into an MP3. There's a bunch of stuff for images as well, like turning an image into a video. So here I can take an image and I can turn it into a video. Here you're going to see that Ken Burns type effect, where it just zooms in on the image and makes a video out of it. And there's other endpoints as well that allow you to run Python code. So if you're building out automations and you want to run code, you can do that just by calling the toolkit. It also has endpoints to upload large files to DigitalOcean or Google Drive. And I didn't even have time to go through every single feature. Now, if you want access to the Make blueprints, so you can simply import the automations that you saw today and access to the Airtable templates, make sure to jump into the No-Code Architects community. You'll get instant access with tech support to help you set it up, and you'll be with a bunch of other passionate AI automation experts with access to beginner courses in automation, access to all my automation templates, a business clarity course with support calls with me almost every single day. I hope to see you inside the community. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.